Bedtime Stories 40. The Secret Life of Tiny Critters. A magical bedtime story about brave little heroes in the heart of the grassy meadow. Where dandelions danced and mushrooms sprouted in rings, lived a tiny world of creatures too small for most eyes to see. Beneath a mossy log, in a cozy burrow lit by fireflies, lived Pip the beetle. Pip was curious, clever, and always ready for an adventure. He was very special because he could change colors. Every morning, Pip polished his shell, grabbed his satchel, and stepped out into the meadow to explore. Today felt different. The air buzzed with excitement, and even the flowers seemed to whisper secrets on the breeze. Pip trotted over to Tilly the ladybug's leaf house. She was outside painting petals with morning dew. "Tilly," Pip said, "do you feel that? Something special is about to happen." Tilly nodded. "The Queen Ant is calling a gathering. All critters are invited, even the shyer ones." Pip's eyes sparkled. "A gathering? There hasn't been one since the Great Leaf Festival. We must go." Tilly packed her watercolor kit, and together they scurried through mushroom tunnels and dewdrop bridges. Along the way, they met Busby, the bee, who was tumbling in the air with laughter. "Heard the news. The Queen has a mystery to solve. Something's gone missing from the hive archives." "A mystery?" Pip whispered. "Now we have to go." They arrived at the Great Root Circle, where Queen Ant stood tall on a polished pebble. Hundreds of critters gathered. "Dear friends," said the Queen, "the Book of Meadow Lore has vanished. Without it, our history may be lost." Gasps filled the circle. The Book of Meadow Lore held stories of their ancestors, the origins of the flower rings, and secrets of the wind's song. "I need brave souls to search far and wide to recover it," the Queen said. Pip stood up. "We'll find it, Your Majesty." "Me, Tilly, and Busby." The Queen nodded solemnly. "Then may the meadow guide you." The trio packed sunflower seed snacks, map scrolls, and a jar of glow moss. The journey began. Their first stop was the bark library, guarded by Meryl the moth. She fluttered down gently. "Meryl," said Pip, "have you seen the Book of Meadow Lore?" "Not recently," Meryl said, "but I saw footprints by the moon shelf. They glowed faintly." "Strange prints indeed. Not recently." Busby buzzed thoughtfully. "Only one creature leaves glowing prints, Luma, the firefly sage." They set off toward the moonlit hollow, where Luma lived among whispering ferns. As they walked, rain began to fall in tiny silver drops. They took shelter under a curled fern frond. Tilly pulled out her paints. "Let's pass the time while we wait." She painted a tiny portrait of Pip and Busby, laughing under the fern, the rain sparkling like stars. When the rain cleared, they continued, following the glow of faint footprints. Soon, firefly lights flickered through the trees. Luma was waiting, perched on a toadstool. "Welcome, little seekers," Luma said, glowing with gentle warmth. "You're looking for the book?" "Yes," said Pip. "The Queen believes the book was taken from the hive archives." Luma nodded slowly. The winds whispered of a shadow who came in silence, not to steal but to protect. Busby tilted his head. "Protect? From what?" "A great change is coming," Luma whispered. "The meadow is shifting. Old secrets stir. The book was moved to keep it safe." Tilly asked, "Do you know who took it?" Luma fluttered higher, lighting a nearby leaf. "Follow the silver thread. It begins at the edge of the river." The trio thanked Luma and headed for the riverbank, where dragonflies zipped like darts over the water. There, on a flat stone, was a trail of sparkling silver thread. Just as Luma said, they followed it through tall reeds, across stepping stone pebbles, and beneath mushroom arches. As twilight deepened, the silver thread shimmered even brighter, guiding them like moonlight. Suddenly, they heard music soft. Lilting tunes played on blade of grass harps. "That's sprite music," Tilly whispered. "Forest sprites live nearby." Sure enough, a group of tiny green-winged sprites appeared, dancing in a circle. "Welcome, travelers," one said with a twirl. "You follow the thread." "Are you worthy?" Pip stepped forward. "We seek the Book of Meadow Lore, to save our history and future." The sprites whispered among themselves. Then the leader nodded. "To pass, you must answer the riddle of the dew. What holds the morning, glows in the light, disappears in heat, and returns at night?" The trio thought deeply. Then Tilly whispered, "Dewdrops." The sprites clapped with joy. "Correct, you may pass." They revealed a hidden tunnel beneath a petal arch, leading deeper into the woods. In the tunnel, glowing moss lit their way as the silver thread continued ahead. Suddenly, the thread vanished, cut cleanly by something sharp. "Scissor snips," Busby muttered. "Sharp beetles must be near." They moved quietly, stepping over beetle tracks and loose shell bits. Soon, they reached a chamber where shiny objects were hoarded: buttons, beads, and the corner of a book cover. Pip shouted there. From the shadows crept Snipper, leader of the sharp beetles. "Who dares enter my treasure trove?" "We need that book," said Pip. "It belongs to the meadow?" Snipper clacked his pincers. "This book is dangerous. It speaks of times best forgotten." "But hiding history is never the answer," Tilly said gently. "Understanding helps us grow." Snipper paused, the light catching on his shell. "What if remembering brings fear?" Busby hovered gently. "But forgetting brings confusion. We can face things better when we know where we come from." The sharp beetles murmured among themselves. Some nodded, some frowned. Finally, Snipper stepped aside. "Take the book, but promise it will be used with care." "We promise," Pip said, lifting the Book of Meadow Lore into his satchel. "Thank you, Snipper." They left the treasure chamber and returned through the petal tunnel, where the sprites waved them farewell. Back under the open sky, stars twinkled above. The meadow seemed to sigh in relief. They camped beneath a curling leaf, warmed by firefly lanterns. Busby snored softly, curled like a fuzzy comma. Tilly painted the scene, the book glowing softly, Pip standing watch, stars winking above. The next morning, they journeyed back to the root circle, where Queen Anta waited. Hundreds of critters cheered as the Book of Meadow Lore was returned to its pedestal. Queen Ant beamed. "Pip, Tilly, Busby, you have done more than return a book. You've reminded us why stories matter." The Queen invited them to the Great Story Night, held once every moon cycle. That night was the grandest of all. Critters from every corner of the meadow gathered with leaf blankets and dewdrop cocoa. One by one, the elders read from the book tales of the first clover, the rain parade, and the time the sun took a nap. Laughter, gasps, and soft snores filled the air. Stories bloomed like flowers in every heart. Tilly shared her paintings, each one capturing a moment from their journey. She gifted one to the Queen. Busby gave a honey toast speech about bravery and breakfast. Everyone clapped, especially the bees. The Queen turned a page and read a final tale, one that was brand new. The story of 3 tiny critters who saved the meadow. Gasps filled the circle. "That's us," Busby whispered. "We're in the book," Pip grinned. "I guess our story has just begun." As the crowd began to sleep, tiny dream moths fluttered down, spreading sparkle dust from wing to wing. The moon rose high, silver and round, watching over the sleeping meadow and its tiny heroes. In the bark library, Meryl the moth added a new scroll to the shelf, Pip's map of the meadow. In moonlit hollow Luma, the firefly smiled, sensing balance had returned. And beneath the mossy log, Pip curled into his burrow, firefly lanterns swaying softly in the breeze. Tilly's leaf house glowed with soft paint light. She was already planning the next painting. Busby snored in a honeycomb hammock, dreaming of more mysteries, more toast, and more tiny adventures. Snipper hesitated. His eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of doubt. What if the stories wake old fears? Busby hovered closer. Then we faced them. Together, the meadow is strong because of all its voices. Snipper clicked thoughtfully, then slowly stepped aside. Take it, but guard its truth well. Pip gently lifted the book of meadow lore. It shimmered faintly, as though it remembered being loved. The silver threads sparkled back into view, leading them out of the chamber and toward home. As they walked, the book grew warmer, glowing with the quiet hum of stories wanting to be told again. Back through tunnels and past the spray grove they went, with fireflies lighting their path. When they reached the root circle, Queen Ant stood waiting beneath the stars. Pip stepped forward and placed the book into her hands. We found it. It was protected, not stolen. The Queen opened it carefully. Pages turned themselves, showing memories of dances, storms, and songs. The meadow thanks you, said the Queen. You've returned not just a book, but our connection. Critters from all corners gathered close, listening as stories bloomed back to life in the Queen's voice. Pip sat beside Tilly and Busby, proud and sleepy. The stars blinked above like happy eyes. That night, under leaves and mossy roofs, dreams were filled with old legends and new hope. But Pip's eyes opened again with the hush of a breeze. Something tugged gently at his thoughts. He followed the whispering wind to a quiet glade, where Luma waited once more. You did well, she said softly. But this is only the beginning. The beginning, Pip asked. What more is there? Luma pointed to the stars. The book holds not just past stories, but clues to the meadow's future. Darkness stirs beyond the hills. Shadows not of evil but of forgetting. Pip shivered. Will we forget again? Not if there are always critters brave enough to remember. Luma smiled. She gave Pip a tiny glowing quill. Write your story too. Let the meadow remember you. Pip returned to his burrow, placed the quill beside his satchel, and stared at a blank leaf of paper. With a steady hand, he wrote, Today, I helped save our stories. And with each word, the leaf shimmered like the pages of the great book. Morning came, and Pip's tale had already begun to spread, carried on breeze and bee-wing. Tilly painted it into petals. Busby sang it into hives. Merrill added it to the bark library. And deep below, even Snipper smiled quietly, remembering how it felt to be heard. The meadow pulsed with stories again, past, present, and those still waiting to be told. Thank you so much for joining me, watching The Secret Life of Tiny Critters, a magical bedtime story about brave little heroes. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more great up-and-coming bedtime stories, pet facts, Bible study, and music. Good night and sweet dreams until next time.